I never intended to be an entrepreneur or to become an entrepreneur. I just knew that I wanted to help people.
Why have you done what so many want to do but never actually do?
So my younger brother is disabled, and so I've seen someone who literally can't have a choice, and so I get to choose. We get to choose. We have the option of creating the life that we want. Because if we can dream it, we can make it happen. So now we just need to step into that. You can have 1,000 wishes, but if you don't have your health, then you just have one. Scaling fast is not a thing unless you scale the systems quickly. There is nothing for free in business. Nothing.
Okay, Lauren, first and foremost, thank you so much for being here. I know you've just said to me that you've got a huge meeting straight after this. So I'm grateful that you're taking the time out of your day for this. The place I want to start is I believe that when you was around 16, you was in a place where you was low self-esteem, low confidence, overweight, got bullied at school. And then by 23, you've completely turned that around. You're fit, you're healthy, you're in a position where you're confident. And of course, you're a millionaire. So if we were to understand how you had such a drastic turnaround, what would be the key things that we would need to know about how that happened?
So I think the first thing, by the way, thank you so much for having me. I know we've heard of each other for a long, years and years and years. I don't remember even how we first came across each
It was
other.
Clubhouse. It was on Clubhouse. We briefly spoke on there, and I heard some of the stuff you were saying. I was like, I really liked your vibe. So yeah, probably 2020, early 2020, something like that.
Okay, I feel like I've known your name though since before that. So I don't know. I guess your marketing was good or something. So kudos to you. But to your point, yeah, firstly, thanks for having me. Secondly, I think it's a really interesting thing when people, are like, oh my gosh, because my dream was always I just want to become a millionaire, right? That was always what I wanted. And now it's just I think making your first six figures, seeing six figures in your bank, for me was a much more rewarding feeling, honestly, because I think then it becomes this thing where it's just whatever, you move on from it, but it does seem to still attract this huge amount of attention, despite the fact that inflation is ridiculous, and a million today versus a million 50 years ago is very, very different. So I think it's interesting that it's something that still grabs people's attention, because even if I was to meet someone who's 23 now and I find out that they were a millionaire, I'd be like, wow, that's really impressive. But then when it's yourself, I don't know why you don't give yourself as much credit. So maybe that's
Do you
something.
think part of it is maybe just that once you've, like you say, maybe done the six figures, money has a different meaning. It becomes the new norm. It's normal dealing with tens of thousands of pounds and so on once you've done it. And maybe when you haven't done it, it seems like all the answers to our problems lie within just hitting that amount of money, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's true. Because I remember the first time I quoted a client 10K and I was literally pooping my pants. I was so scared. But then now it's we don't even deal with clients who pay us less than that. So it's just a very interesting reshift and reframe in the way of approaching things. Because I do think, as you said, it's a lot to do with what you've internalized as your internal set point of what is normal, I suppose. But I want to answer your question because I realized I didn't answer it. And I believe that there were a couple of things. So for me, it was definitely conviction in the fact that I am going to make this work no matter what. So I spent a short amount of time in corporate where I was working in asset management. And I saw how they had just ultimately become slaves to their job, and they were working 16, 18 hours a day. And did they like it or not? I don't know. I mean, their personality compared to the entrepreneurs and the founders and CEOs that I'm around all day, every day now, I would say they probably didn't. But it's interesting because I just knew that I needed to do my own thing. Now, I never intended to be an entrepreneur or to become an entrepreneur. I just knew that I wanted to help people. And I suppose I went into it quite naively, in having no idea how to run a business, no idea anything about taxes, nothing to do with client agreements, nothing to do with sales. I thought sales was like really, really disgusting. And I used to hate sales. So I only used to do marketing, and I didn't even have a sales department in my company. Now I have a marketing department, but it's very much the other way around. Sales is like, 50% of what we focus on. And so I really believe that it just came down to like total commitment in the fact that I am not going back into corporate. And then secondly, I want to do something that's rewarding and fulfilling. So it was twofold. It was like very me focused, but then it was never that I was trying to like build something just all about me, right? It was like, I want to have a company that actually helps other people because that's rewarding. And I feel like I'm actually doing something positive. So it was those things coupled together that I think put me in the position where I am now, because I truly believe that every million you make is another million of impact that you put into the world. And so that's my perspective on it. And so that's how I think I have such an open mindset around money, and I'm very willing and open to talk about it.
I think what you said there about like maybe looking around in the corporate world and thinking, hang on, this is not where I want to be. People don't actually seem that happy. It doesn't seem so fulfilling. And recognizing we want to change, we want to do something more meaningful, more impactful, and more fulfilling is common. What isn't common, I don't think, well, the statistics suggest it isn't, is many people actually making a drastic change in the way that you did. As you reflect on that, what do you think it is? Why have you done what so many want to do but never actually do?
I think there's a couple of things. So my younger brother is disabled. And so he has epilepsy, autism, like he's in a wheelchair, he's fed through a tube. And so I've seen someone who literally can't have a choice. And so I get to choose. We get to choose. We have the option of creating the life that we want. Like we are the ones who get to make that decision for ourselves. And yeah, like maybe you're in an abusive relationship. Maybe you have a mental disorder. Maybe there's something physically wrong with you as well. However, at the same time, we still get to choose with that current situation that we have in our lives, how we react to it. And so I think through seeing somebody have their freedom literally stripped away from them at birth, it gave me a different way of wanting to live my life, right? And not being a victim to my circumstances. And some people will feel very, very triggered by that. Like for the longest time, I also had panic attacks every single day, right? And that was really crippling to me. And I know if I'd heard that message back then, I wouldn't have resonated with myself and what I say now. But in hindsight, I realized that I did have the ability to choose if I wanted to stay in that situation, because I had to lean into getting help and getting support, which back then I was really, really resistant to. And sometimes we need to lean into that support and actually accept the help with open arms so that we can ultimately get towards the outcome that we can see ourselves that we want to have. And so now I think every single day, who do I want to be? What type of person do I want to show up as? And if my actions are out of alignment with that dream version of myself, then I know that I'm just moving further away from that. And I'm not really living up into my fullest potential. Because if we can dream it, we can make it happen. So now we just need to step into that. So to your point, I think it's probably that. And I think it's also, I really just let go of caring about what people think about me, because they're going to judge you either way, right? Whether you're successful or not. Either they're just going to be like, oh yeah, they're successful, they're so arrogant, all they care about is money, or they're going to be like, oh, they're a slob, they just do what everybody says, that they're just like a sheep. So you just get to choose which one you want, right?
That's what I always say. Life's just about alternatives. Like, which would you rather pick? It's a great way of
100%.
looking at it. You mentioned there about the panic attacks and anxiety. And obviously, for a lot of people, when it comes to achieving their goals, building a business, but also they might have just a lot of daily stresses, whether it be, being a parent or a relationship and just the daily stresses of life. That can create a lot of anxiety for a lot of people when they're also adding in the stress of trying to become something else or build something else. Is there anything you've learned over the years that would be like advice, to help manage anxiety better from your experience?
Well, I want to go to one thing that you said, because I think even before that, it's like total radical personal responsibility. Because if there's a relationship in your life that's stressing you out, why are you in the relationship, right? If you are in a job that's stressing you out, why are you in that job if your kid, like, I'm not a parent, so I can't really comment on the parent one, and I'm not going to try and pretend that I can, so I'll bypass on that one, because like that's a whole different game.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the way that I would look at it is, if I had kids and they were stressing me out, I would look at like, who can I hire to coach me to support my children better, right? And so it just comes down to, rather than thinking like, oh my gosh, these situations in my life are so stressful, it's like, what am I doing to cause this to constantly show up? Like, I'll give you an example. So I was just in, where was I? I think it was in like, it was in Buenos Aires. Yeah. I was there a few months ago, and I was getting really, really stressed, like super stressed, because my phone wasn't working. Like the phone service was like terrible. And because the phone service wasn't good, I couldn't speak to my team. I couldn't do the things that I wanted to do. And then when I finally got down to the matter of like, why am I so stressed? And I realized it was stemming from that. I realized like, I just need to stay on Wi-Fi, and then I'm not going to be stressed. Like, why am I walking around outside
So
where there's not any?
it was kind of like awareness number one, and then solution number two, and it's just
Yeah.
about being that practical, I guess.
Well, I mean, yeah, but then at the same time, also having an understanding of like, what triggers you.
Mm.
So I realized like, that's something that can trigger me. Like if I'm walking around in a dangerous place by myself and I don't have phone service, like of course I'm gonna feel stressed, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm like a blonde girl in like a South American place, like, and I have no idea how to contact anyone. Like that's pretty
Mm.
stressful,
Mm.
right? So like I had to realize that was my fault. And so I think sometimes just like leaning into that a little bit more. And then to your point, like regarding anxiety, so I'm really grateful that like I haven't felt these immense feelings for like 7 years now, I guess. And for me, again, it was just understanding the science of what actually happens when you have a panic attack, and then actually being willing to like speak to someone about it, which back then, again, I was really, really resistant to. And then one time I was doing a breathwork session, even a few years after I stopped having panic attacks. And you know what? Like, I realized, because I tried to do meditation, right? I tried it, but I used to get stressed when I was meditating like a few years ago, because I couldn't, it was like more like guided mindfulness with the breath work, where they tell you like, breathe in and breathe out like that. And I always used to get super panicky when I did that. And when I was doing this actual breathwork session, lying on the floor in like a group of 200 people around me, because when you do breathwork like that, a lot of people, they kind of lose control of their body, and it's like they go into this different state. And I realized, oh my gosh, the reason why I don't like the feeling when I'm trying to do breathwork is because it reminds me of my brother when he's having a seizure,
Mm.
right? And so that
Got it.
just clicked with me then. Yeah, so I think oftentimes like people always say like, look at your, childhood, etc., etc. But I think there's a lot to that, and I think especially as Brits, we kind of dismiss these things.
Mm.
However, looking into like your childhood trauma, I think is something that really helped me for sure.
I read that you got involved on this journey to figuring out what you wanted to do and what business you wanted to do. You got involved in being scammed with some kind of e-commerce opportunity. I'm just interested in what happened there, mainly because I'd like to know, like, is there certain things now that you can share to help people look out for what's the scam and what's legit when people are looking? Because there's a lot of get rich quick, and a lot of marketing is great, but it's only sometimes when you paid the money, and sometimes big money. Because I believe you lost $10,000 doing that. What's kind of the go-to things to look for?
It's just funny because like since then, the amount of times that this has happened to me again is just like stupid. And you know what's crazy is like the same person who, I'm so stupid, right? Like I didn't even learn this until last year. So when I was doing this, I'm not going to say too many details, but basically like the point that I would say is, if it's a one-off deal and someone just has this like one-off thing and they don't have a proven track record, I immediately avoid those things. The only time I would ever like enter into a deal like that is if it was for a small amount of money. And if they openly tell me like, hey, this is one of my first times doing this, you're going to be one of my tester clients, and in exchange for that, I'm giving you like basically at cost price, so that I can work with you and refine my process. Okay. So if it's not a proven track record, if it's like a one-off thing, and if it sounds too good to be true, then it is. Like it is. There is nothing for free in business. Nothing.
Mm.
So now when people offer me things, right? Like if they offer me, hey Lauren, I want to take you to my retreat and, you can enjoy your trip and come for a week for free, like luxury, 5-star. I'll even pay you 20K. I'm like, okay, well, what do you want? You want to pick my brain? Like, what do you want from me? Just tell me. Because if you want to pick my brain, then just pay me instead. I don't need all this stuff for free. You know what I mean? Actually, I don't sell my time, so that's a separate thing. But like, I'm just having banter. But like, that's also what I've realized is like, there is just nothing. If it sounds too good to be true, like it for sure is. And so now I have a team who vet everything. And so like people will always say like people have their gatekeepers. And I used to get really frustrated by that. But now I see why. Because the bigger your company gets, the bigger your brand gets, like the more and more things come at you every single day. So this happens to me every single day. I mean, there's endless opportunity, and it's like, which one do I say yes to? Which one do I say no to? And so that's why my team vet every single opportunity now. And if I'd have had that, from the beginning, I would have been in a way better place because I didn't used to vet things properly. And I used to just trust. Whereas now I'd say I'm very untrusting, and it takes a lot for someone to earn my trust. But that's because I've been burnt so many times.
I'm in a really similar boat as well. And I think sometimes, unfortunately, that's just life. You learn the hard way, but then they're quick lessons if you get the right support. And what I'm hearing there is it's about the right team. It's about building trust around you in your inner circle that
Yeah.
can then, help with that. If somebody's listening that is maybe quite new to business or perhaps a coach in particular, have you got any kind of quick tips in terms of how to approach scaling fast?
Well, those two words don't go together, scaling fast. So that's a problem in itself. So I used to see, I'm in a position where like it looks like my success, quote unquote, happened very, very quickly. But that's because people hear my age now and they seem to think that it happened really fast. But as of the day that we're filming this, for me, it's been like really properly 7 years that I've been extremely focused, and then like ridiculously focused, it's been 4. Okay, so imagine like, and out of those 7 years, I would say 5 of those years, pretty much 7 days a week, I'd have been doing like at the very least 14-hour days. And
Right.
I'm not saying that because I think that's something that's I brag about, because actually, if I could go back, it's totally not the way that I would do things if I was starting again.
Would
However,
you scale slower if you was to do it again? Would
see,
you?
I don't think I scaled fast, because if
Mm,
you look at this, what I've done over time, I don't think it's been particularly fast. Like I have clients now who come in and in their first year, they're hitting 200, 300 grand a month in net profit.
wow.
That's pounds, by the way. And I'm speaking pounds because I mean, pound and dollar right now is about the same thing.
Mm,
And that's because like I already made all the mistakes. So like I systematize things, but they come in having done the work in themselves.
yeah.
Right. So I never saw myself as someone who could run a 10 million per year business. I didn't see myself as that for a long time. And then obviously now I do, because that's what's happened.
Mm, mm,
Right. Now I see myself as someone who runs a 30 million per year business. Do I have that business? No, not yet. But I see myself as that person. So I know that I can make it happen. I'm making the convicted decisions to bring the right people around me to pay these like 6-figure salaries, right? Like
yeah.
that's crazy. Some of my people on my team get paid like what my dream business goal was for the longest time. That's amazing. Like I get to give people their dream job, and it's as a part of like my vision. This is amazing, right? And they love that, they love what they do. But scaling fast is not a thing unless you scale the systems quickly.
Mm,
Okay?
mm, mm,
Because there's this thing which, so I have a woman on my team called Lara. She's just amazing. So I'm super grateful with the nature of what we do at Impact School, because I have consultants that actually work for me. So these are all people who have had really successful companies of their own, who, let's just say I made them a deal. So good that they couldn't say no to coming into Impact School. And so now like they're on Slack with me, right? They're in our companies, like they work for me. Okay. And so I can just message them whenever I want to just ask them something. So I was talking to Lara and I said, hey, can you review this copy for me? I wrote this like landing page type of thing. Just, I love to write. So I just done done. And then I just, they do with it as they like. But this was different. This was like a sales letter. So I sent it over to her. And historically, we've called our team growth consultants. And she said, but Lauren, I have a bone to pick with this word growth. And I said, well, what do you mean? Because I'm someone who I really love the whole tech startup world, right? And you hear like growth hacking and all this type of stuff. James Creswell, I recognize that name. Anyway, so I'm like talking to her and she goes, yeah, so I just don't like growth because it's just not the same as scale. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, well, growing is about doing as much as you possibly can on one individual thing to get it to its absolute max. Whereas scaling is actually about putting the procedures and systems in place so that thing can expand again and again and again beyond the ceiling. Because if you continue, if you keep growing and growing, there's always going to reach a cap. Whereas scaling, the whole point of scaling is it never reaches capacity. The capacity never ends. So in order to scale, I would much rather grow more slowly, but then have a way to actually keep scaling forevermore, because otherwise what happens? Well, your team get burnt out, your systems break. I mean, who's ever had it where suddenly they get an influx of leads and you can't convert all the leads quickly enough, then they go cold and then you miss out on opportunities and deals, and it turns out that those people who wanted to sign up and work with you go and work with another company just because you didn't get back to them quickly enough. Right?
Yeah.
That's not an issue about growth. Right? That's an issue about scale, because your company would have grown if you had the capacity to bring those people on. It's just that you didn't have the infrastructure. So operationally, these are the things that I look towards. It's I would always rather have 3 people on my team who are pretty much redundant right now because they're doing nothing, so that then if I suddenly go speak at an event, right, a random opportunity comes up and I get to this is literally happening to me in 10 days from now. I'm going to speak at an event randomly in Dubai in front of 4,000 people. Wasn't expecting to do this. And so I know that there's going to be a lot of business that comes from that, just because everyone there's basically agency owners, people that have consulting companies, coaching businesses. And so it's literally designed for impact school. And so if I didn't have a few people on my team who could take on at least 20 more clients each, then I would miss out on hundreds and thousands, maybe even millions of dollars worth of cash collected. So these are the things that I'm thinking through all the time. Now, your question was more about people who are in the brand new beginning stages. I'm going to be honest, we don't really typically work with people at this point who are in the brand new beginning stages. And I would say I'm probably not the best person to ask about that anymore. Because to me, the brand new beginning stages is more mental. It's more of a mindset game and being willing to actually charge a high price point for what you're doing. Because most people, when they start out, they want to charge a couple hundred a month. Instead, I believe package your existing knowledge, experience, everything that you know into an all-encompassing, outcome-oriented offering, and then charge that for 5K, 10K, 25K. And rest assured that every client that you work with, you are working with them until you get them the result. A lot of people don't want to do that. They just want to say yeah, you can pay me 10K and then you can go in my coaching program. And no, work with that person till they get to the result. Because until you do that, you're not good enough to be able to scale, right? And so maybe my answer is a little simplistic for people in the beginning stages, but I actually don't think it's more complicated than that.
Nice. I think that's food for thought for a lot of people. And I think a key point there is having, kind of proof of concept, do something very, very, very well, and then make sure you've got the systems in place and the team to be able to scale. And I think the other thing that I took away is mindset is everything in the early stages. And also what you said there about always kind of being ahead in your mindset from where you physically are to where you desire to be. And I think that's a real key thing with mindset. I heard you speak on an interview, I think it was earlier this year, about how you was trialing this new sales page, which was a video series, because you was kind of that mindset where, you wasn't a massive fan of having to chase leads and get on the phone to kind of convince people that are kind of on the fence. I'm just interested, how did that play out? Is that something that you found worked, not having to get them on the phone? Because I know there's a lot of people where if they can build their business so that they've already been sold to before they even need to get on the phone, so they're only dealing with people who are genuinely bought into what their ethos is and what they do. but I know they find that a struggle. So what's your experience of that?
So we collected 318K USD in 5 days in the DMs. And that was just from Instagram. And so I made a YouTube video about that, and like people went crazy, right? Because they were like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Da-da. But here's the thing. So when it comes down to like selling in the DMs or selling on a landing page, it's really about asking yourself, why do you want to do this?
Yeah.
And so I was looking at a conversation a couple of days ago that one of the specialists on my team had with a potential client. And they asked them exactly this, because he was saying, I just want to sell on DMs. I'm bored of being on sales calls all the time. And he was saying he was sick of getting on sales calls himself where the prospect didn't end up closing. So his issue was that he, as the founder of the company, was getting on too many sales calls that didn't close because he wasn't good at sales. And then I saw another conversation that my team were having. I just kind of look at some of the stuff they're doing sometimes on the project management, and I see back and forth, and similar thing. But this time it was that someone was a sales coach. Like he actually has a sales coaching business. But he's in a position now where he can't take any more sales calls a day. And he's closing at 80%. But like he literally cannot take more sales calls every single day. So again, that's a scale issue, right? He's reached max capacity when it comes to what his business could scale to right now, because he doesn't have a team. So to your point regarding like selling through the 4-part video series, we actually never ended up doing that in the end. That's still something which is on our project pipeline to see if we even want to do it, because our system and what we're doing right now is working extremely well. So I just don't really want to change it. So we at the moment we decided in 2023 all of our like old coaching programs and like courses and stuff, we're kind of just retiring all of that, and instead behind the scenes over the last 3 and a bit years we've had our accelerator, which is where we've actually just hand selected some of our existing clients to bring on as partners of ours, whereby our guarantee for them is that we'll get them out of the day-to-day operations while doubling their sales and redoubling again. And so recently, we've decided that we're going to open up our applications for members to actually join us there instead of selling other programs. So it's basically an application process. Then we invite them onto an interview. And then from there, we make them an offer or we point them in the right direction. Will we maybe sell one of our programs again in Q2, Q3 of next year? Maybe. But as of the moment, that's not our plan. And we're just sticking to the same old boring process. We tried everything, just selling in DMs, just, we sold some low ticket stuff. But at the end of the day, this is just what we found works best. And having a great team who are doing that.
Amazing. When it comes to goal setting, obviously you're setting goals now for a huge company with a whole team of people. And I know that you've had Grant Cardone on your podcast, and one of the things that I found took me down the wrong path initially is his concept of this 10x rule, make everything bigger. And I found what it often did was, rather than be motivating and make me be ambitious, it actually was unrealistic and therefore demotivating. I'm interested for you, as somebody who's setting goals for more than just you and you have a team. Have you got any tips on how to do that effectively?
So it's more about your vision, right? As the founder, like what do you actually want to do? So in 10 years time from now, how do you want the world to look after you're done in it? That's kind of how I think about it. So I don't try and set goals for other people. I just make it clear where I'm going. And if they want to jump on board with me, then sure. If they don't want to, then that's not the place for them at my company.
Got
Right.
you, yeah. So it's
So
more
some
being the
people,
vision implementer and saying, this is the vision, who's on the journey.
100%. Yeah. And I agree with you with regards to like setting the 10x goal. Like it doesn't work, because if right now I say my goal, yeah, guys, in 2023, we're going to hit 200 million. It would just be laughable. Like it's just not realistic. There is no way that's happening. I don't see that as I am not a CEO of a 200 million company. No way. That's not me yet. And I need to do the personal work to be able to get myself into the mindset that that's even possible for me. Right. So with that in mind, you totally have to be realistic, because people would just like think I'm a laughing stock if I said that to them. And so I don't try and set goals for other people, because even so Noor, she came on as partner in the company, so she now has a small percentage in Impact School. But for the longest time, like she didn't even see herself as COO, right? And I couldn't just tell her like, this is your role, like you must do this. I had to keep having the conversations with her and ask her like, do you feel like you can fit into this position? And then finally one day she realized like internally that yes, she can do that. And this is made for her. But that's only because she realized that for herself. And so there are some people who you bring into your business that like I have people who worked with me until 3 million a year, right? And then they go off and go back to another business that's at 1 million and get them to 3 million again. And they keep doing that again and again because they like that. They like the freedom, they like the flexibility. Now I have people on my team who have come from corporate who are very structured, very, not like how I operate, right? At all. I'm super like fluid and flowy, and they are very, routine because that's the background they've come from. But that's what we need to get to our next goals. And so it also depends upon the season of business that you're at. Because like, will they be able to get us to 30 million? Don't know. I don't know. I haven't done that before. I don't know yet. Right. So that's where I seek out support from mentors and coaches of mine who give me this type of guidance and let me know, like, hey, I had this person in my company. They got me to 30 to like 32 million or whatever. Like maybe you want to consider interviewing them for the head of marketing role that you have right now. Right. Like they share these type of things with me. So then I know as well, like the best advice that I can have to actually get my business to where I want it to be.
Love it. Based on that, then, what is the long-term vision for you? Where do you see this going in an ideal world?
Yeah, I think it really depends on like the time horizon that we look at. So over the next 3 years, our aim is to hands-on support 10,000 founders and CEOs to each help them double their sales and get them out of the day-to-day operations so they can turn their vision into a reality, right? Because I see so many great founders like who have a huge vision, but they're doing things like clicking buttons in ad managers or typing messages to like potential clients or on sales calls all day, every day. So they can't actually grow their business, right? And so our aim is to help them build the team, the systems, the infrastructure around them so that they don't even need to think about that and they can get back in their zone of genius and actually make the impact that they want to make and turn that vision into a reality. So that's really the cause that we're championing and working towards.
Okay, I want to flip this now over to some more generalized questions, kind of more quick fire perhaps. So the first one is, what's one of the best pieces of advice you've ever had and why?
Just focus. Just stop doing all the small little projects. Stop trying to do all the little deals, right? And just focus on the one thing that you're working, like your actual vision. And that's been really powerful for me because I think, I don't know if you've seen the Eisenhower matrix, but it's like important, urgent, non-important, non-urgent, kind of like that.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen it, just Google it and you'll see. And like that doesn't work for entrepreneurs, right? It's not a good model for us. Why? Because everything for us is important and urgent.
Yeah.
And so while we might be able to make a list and bush through it all in a couple of hours, as we expand beyond just us, it no longer works. So I often speak at these events. My friend Nick Shackelford runs this company, it's marketing events, and I spoke about this at the event, and you wouldn't believe there was like 200 entrepreneurs, all of them doing, I think it was at least 3 million a year. And they all come up to me like, oh my gosh, Lauren, you've just given me the most clarity I've had in business in years. Because they couldn't figure out why their team couldn't keep up with them. And it's because they were constantly dumping things onto their team that was urgent and important and needed to get done like right now. So then their team was paralyzed and didn't know which one to focus on first. So then they just spent all day trying to prioritize and organize in which order everything needed to get done. Right. So instead, I prefer a framework at Impact School that we use. It's VILE. So it's vital, important, luxury, and eliminate. So the vital is the lifeblood of your business. So lifeblood of your business is things that keep the business running, right? Money coming in and then delivering the service to the people. So what do they pay for? Delivering that to them. That's the vitality of your business. It's like the heartbeat. And then the important things are the things that support your business in its function, right? So maybe like tech infrastructure, or maybe like, making sure that a client gets a reply within a day, right? And then luxury would be things like extra projects that you're working on, right? I'm just kind of thinking about random examples. Like if a client of mine got a reply within a day, that'd be way too long. Like I would want that within an hour. But anyways, I digress. And eliminate are things that are nothing to do with the vitality of your business. So it's just like, just get rid of it, or just like set it in 3 months from now and revisit then. So I would say, yeah, focusing is just like probably the biggest thing that has, and you have to learn this the hard way, right? You're gonna have to get burnt from not focusing until you realize how important this is. Because I heard this so many times. And I thought, yeah, well, I have this, I have that. My situation's different. My situation was not different, and neither is yours. Sorry.
Harsh reality that people need to hear, right? Okay, next question. What's the worst piece of advice you've received and why?
Outsourcing your sales to somebody else that isn't a part of your team. Because if you do that, that is the control of cash flow into your business. And someone can run away with all of your leads, your database, your clients, and start selling them other things, which may or may not have happened to me.
It definitely did then. I'm going to take from that. So again, learning the hard way potentially. Yeah. So build sales in-house, make sure it's an in-house team, part of your culture. Next question. I know this might be a difficult one. It's one that I heard on Stephen Bartlett's podcast and I thought it was really interesting. If you need a moment to think, that's fine. But the question is, what is one question that you never get asked, but if you did, would reveal the most about you?
About me personally, or me in business?
Just you as Lauren, or I guess however you want to interpret it.
A question that I don't get asked that would reveal the most about me. Probably maybe the things that you like to, what are the things that you can do and you feel like time just passes by? Because I think when you're in
What
that
are
flow
they then?
state,
Because I'd like to know that then. That's the next question.
for me, writing. I love writing. I love it. And I also like just moving my body like actively. So whether I'm like training, I actually really used to love playing tennis, which I haven't done for a long time. So those are things like, where you're being active in some way, for me. And also I love to walk outside as well. Just like with a beautiful view, you can just really spend some time thinking about the things that you want to think about, or just being present in nature. It's like very peaceful, right? And it connects you to the earth.
Beautiful. A big part of the mission here is about educating people on the stuff that traditional education just didn't really delve into. So based on that, the final question here is, if you was to reflect and think about 3 main lessons that you've learned from life that are super critical, but were not taught to you in traditional education, have you got 3 that you could share?
Yeah, I mean, definitely it's that, back to what I just said, it's just like move your body, get out there, move your body, actually exercise, take care of your health, right? Because I heard this once from, I don't remember, back when I was doing online fitness coaching, and you can have 1,000 wishes, but if you don't have your health, then you just have one, right?
Powerful.
And that's something that people should really take more seriously. Mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, like it's very important. Yeah. So you asked for 3, right? So the next one would be, well, I dropped out of the UK's #1 business degree because my professors had never had their own businesses, and I was in my lectures like trying to build my business. And I remember one time asking one of my accounting lecturers like something about international tax law, and he just told me to Google it. And I was like, dude, I'm like, are you serious? And yeah, so that was a little frustrating. So I think it's that. And the same thing goes like, let's say anyone that you're looking to work with for support, right? I look to work with somebody who has what I want. So for example, like recently, like I have an amazing relationship, and like one thing that I heard Lewis Howes was like, in his relationship he got a dating coach like really early on to improve his relationship. Nothing was wrong, but just to make it great. And like, so we decided to look for the same thing. And so like we were working with someone, and then we found out that like he'd been divorced and like was now single, and it's just not in alignment of what I want. So I decided like, let's look for someone else who has actually what we want, right? It's like, personally, I know when I was also doing online fitness coaching, I aimed to be that of and maintain myself to be the type of person who my clients wanted to be. So if I ever felt like, oh, I'm just gonna skip a meal because like it's okay, I'll eat some extra cookies for dinner, like just to fit my macros, I didn't want to be that person like for my clients back then. So I would think, okay, actually no, let's not do this, like let's not get back into these bad habits that I used to have, and like let's be the type of person that my clients would want to be, right? So I would say that's that. And then the third thing,
And so just to clarify, I kind of interpret that as the second point is only get advice from those who are where you want to be in that particular area, right? So if it's wealth, go to somebody who's made that amount of money. If it's health, go to somebody who has the same values and is healthy. If it's relationships, don't go to someone who's divorced, right? That's kind of what I'm hearing.
well, I look for all areas, right? So like, for example, my dad like got divorced with my mom, right? But I'll still ask him things about like my relationship. You see what I mean?
Mm,
But like, it's just
mm,
not, I'm bearing that in mind that he's been divorced himself.
got
So
you.
like, not everything is like, whole. And he's also my dad, so it's a bit different. But like, um, what I mean is like, okay, let's just say, right, someone had like the most dream body, and you're like, oh my gosh, this person has like the best body I've ever seen in my life, and like maybe they have a really healthy relationship with food and their body, and they love to exercise all like this, but then their business sucks, right? Their relationships suck because all they care about is training. Right? And they have no friends. Like, I'm not going to go to that person for fitness advice because their advice is going to be too all or nothing. For
Yeah.
me, it's about the whole picture, right? And it's about not just looking at one area in life, but it's looking at like, who can my role model be based upon the core pillars, right? Of health, your mind and body, okay? Your freedom. So like, what does your lifestyle actually look like? Your business, so your active business right now, like, are you a great leader? And also like your overall wealth and net worth, again, because you could make loads of money but then just like spend it all on gambling. See
Mm,
what I mean?
mm.
So for me, it's about the bigger picture of everything as a whole, and that's how I'll judge someone if I actually want to go ahead and work with them. So for example, person that I'm looking to at the moment, for like the relationship side of things, like they have a great business, their partner has a great business, they're two entrepreneurs, like they understand the lifestyle, they are nomadic, they just had a child, right? Like it's they both have content on social media, right? It's the whole picture. It's not just one thing. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense. Yeah. Have you got a third, or is that? I mean, we've had loads of depth, so I'm happy with two if we haven't got a third.
um I think it's just like realizing that someone that's ahead of you, they cannot possibly pull you down because they're ahead of you.
Mm.
So if someone's trying to drag you down, that's critical feedback and advice. If they're ahead of you, take it seriously. And if they're just hating on you, they're below you. So like, do you really care?
Love it. Lauren, thank you so much. Just to wrap up this interview, if people want to learn more about you, where's the best place they can go online to find you, follow you, get your content?
Lauren Tickner on all social media, just LaurenTickner. And then I also have a podcast called Impact School. So that's where you said like Grant Cardone, and I've had guests like that. And then I do a lot of solo episodes and stuff as well. So yeah, there's some good stuff there that you might enjoy too. So yeah, this has been fun.
Amazing. Go check Lauren out. And final question I ask all guests is, Lauren, what is your definition of success?
For me, success is being able to do the things that you want to do when you want to do them in the way that you want to do them, that's fulfilling and rewarding to you. And you have choice. You have freedom of choice, freedom of, the ability to make the moves that you want to make, while also doing something fulfilling that makes some type of impact.
Amazing. Lauren, thank you so much. Amazing. And that is not the end of this episode, because there was, I believe, around another 30 minutes Q&A that was had after this chat. Now, all you have to do if you want to listen to the rest of this episode is make sure you get your Success School membership. And if you haven't already, why have you not? It is completely free to come and join us on a 14-day try before you buy trial. And after that, it's only £19 per month. And there are so many benefits you get once you become a member. You get to join our private WhatsApp accountability and support group. You get over 50 training videos around mindset, high performance, personal development, business, branding, marketing, sales, and so much more. And you also get to be on all our Zoom podcast recordings where you can not only watch the podcast live, but then you can actually meet our guest, engage with them, and ask your questions to get personalized answers on the call. All you've got to do to sign up right now is click the links below this, whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts or whether you're watching on YouTube. The link is there in the show notes. Click that link. It'll take you probably 60 seconds to sign up, be a member, and you can literally continue with the rest of this podcast. But you will also get to join us immediately and get all those other benefits that I've just mentioned there as well. Just to be clear, it will ask for your payment details so that you can set up a proper account. But at the time of recording, there is still a 14-day free trial, so no money will be taken right now. You can join us. If you like it after 14 days, at that point, you can become a paying member, but it's less than £5 a month. Like, this is nothing. What I'm trying to do with our Success School membership is bridge the gap between those high ticket coaching where it's thousands and thousands of pounds to work with a coach and thousands of pounds to join courses and be part of these kind of communities. I just believe that it doesn't need to cost that much to still get the quality, still get the support, the network, meet incredible people, and actually be able to learn what you need to do to keep on moving forward in your life so that you can live a happier, healthier, more successful and more fulfilling life. Click that link. I will look forward to seeing you in there. And thank you so much for being here, for listening to this podcast episode. I hope to see you next time. But until then, I will leave with the quote that I always do from famous thought leader, Mr. Jim Rohn. He said that traditional education will make you a living, but self-education will make you a fortune. Keep on focusing on that personal development, on that personal growth, on that self-education. I'll see you next time.